And when you go there and punch in that information, it will basically explain to you if you are a person who should lease or should buy. So that's something you may want to consider before you consider leasing or buying. You may find out a little more about yourself that you didn't realize with your driving patterns. Now, we're talking about disadvantages about leasing, and we talked about in the fine print the early termination costs and the disposal fees. Again, those things should be disclosed to you, but the contract is so large. Obviously, people are focused on what they already agreed to on the sales floor and making sure everything's right and the VIN numbers are right and the car is right, and they go from there and they leave and they may not know. So again, remember, you are personally responsible to make sure you read what you need to read, and it's so easy to get in there and just sign away. But I also feel like the dealership is responsible of explaining. So I think it's two ways, but ultimately it's going to be your car, your payment, your liability, and you want to make sure you understand. So the early termination costs or the disposal fees are in there, and the dollar amounts are in there, and the reasons why they're charged are in there. So just something to consider. The other disadvantage that we're going to talk about is just flat out, there's no ownership opportunity while you drive the car. Now, I put no ownership, in my mind, I'm going to say no ownership. Now, when we talked about the 4 options, you can buy it, sell it, trade it, or turn it in. Buying it is an option. The reason why I say there's no ownership opportunity is because I would be, in my opinion, if I led anybody to believe that you could buy the car and that's something that would be good for you financially, I would be doing you a huge disservice, because it wouldn't be. If you do the math, you run the numbers, you see exactly what it is, you will pay more. If you want to buy the car, obviously you can, but again, that's a determination you'll make at the end. In the interim, though, as a disadvantage, you have to look, are you an individual that typically drives a car till it dies, or drive a car for a long period of time and then maybe pass it on to somebody in the family? Because if you're in a lease, the option for that is nearly none. So to me, that's a huge disadvantage, because you want to be able to have some flexibility. Now, again, you're not stuck and you're not in a bad spot, but as it relates to buying a car, and you're looking at a Accord or Passat or Camry or any car or truck, and you're really contemplating buying it and leasing it, and you say, okay, the purchase of this is going to cost me $393 a month, okay, but the lease is going to cost me $261 a month. And you look at the difference in math, obviously it looks more advantageous to take the lease. But remember, if you think you're going to buy the car, you're better off doing the $375 a month. Mm-hmm. You're better off just going ahead and doing that, because in the end, it's going to be better for you. And the $3,600 you save over the term, if you do the math on what it would cost you when you take the residual plus sales tax plus the payment you've already made on the car, it's going to be a lot more than $3,600.
I see.
So, again, that's a disadvantage you want to look out for, the ownership opportunity. But, again, leasing a vehicle, you do have options at the end. You still can trade it. You still can turn it in, avoid negative equity, or you can sell it outright. And that's easy. And when we come back from the break, we'll talk about how you can sell it. And then we'll also talk about swap a lease. So someone can assume your lease. And I've had personal experience with doing that myself. So we come back from the break, we'll talk about swapalease.com. We'll talk about what you need to do there and how to sell your lease vehicle. Because if you're in a lease now, you may think, man, if I can sell it, I may want to do it now, because you may be in a situation where you can actually make money.
I see.
So we come back from the break, we'll talk about that.
All right. It's Chip and Louie, Super Thursday, talking about leasing. If you have a question, 706-453-4140. It's 412. We've got 80 degrees, partly cloudy skies at Dock 103.